You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy starship has been designed.
Hailing frequencies open. Welcome to Galaxy Class, a Star Trek The Next Generation podcast on BQN. I'm holo photographer Stefan.
And I'm Ambassador Steven.
Ambassador, what's going on?
Hey, summer's here. What?
Is it actually summer where you are?
It's going to be 90-something tomorrow. So that's early for us here. So listeners, This is the beginning of June as we're recording this, or almost mid-June. But it's hot early here, but it's hot.
Yeah, we are at presently 62 degrees. So that's very warm for us. It's been pretty nice. It's been hit or miss actually, but when it's been nice, it's been nice. It's been very rainy on occasion, but also very sunny. So I've been plowing through my Star Trek rewatch of all the legacy series or all the classic series, whatever we want to call them. I think my next episode is Parallels, which is season 7 of TNG. It's the one where Worf is going through all these different parallel realities. I always like that episode, so I'm looking forward to seeing that again soon.
It's a good one.
Yeah. You've been trekking at all, Steven?
I have been rewatching Starfleet Academy and lamenting its demise, but I'm really grateful there's another season. I think that it's actually an incredible show, and I'm very sad that the decision was made.
We can always rewatch season 1 and 2. I just hope season 2 is not a cliffhanger and that they somehow wrap it up. We will see.
When they announced that Strange New Worlds would end with season 5, they allowed them to go in. Sorry, I'm misspeaking. They hadn't recorded season 5 yet. Discovery, they were able to go in and record an epilogue.
Right. Yep.
And wrap it. So I'm hoping there's something like that for Starfleet Academy because they deserve it. It's a really good show.
Yeah, I know. And they have disassembled those sets though, right? I believe I've seen stuff on them disassembling and running that stuff off to auction.
No.
So I don't know.
Ooh.
We'll find out.
Parallel fandom universe news. Doctor Who is done. So after 21 years, I can't do math. After 20 some years in the reboot and the Russell T Davies era, they have decided to Bad Wolf Productions and Russell T Davies are no longer affiliated with Doctor Who. They canceled the Christmas special, and there has not been a new Doctor selected. So I believe it's the BBC that owns Doctor Who are deciding what they want to do with the franchise, but it's possible that this might be it for the foreseeable future. Yeah, crazy news.
That doesn't super affect me because I've seen probably one Doctor Who episode ever, but that's a bummer for fans of the show. I know that the Star Trek fandom has a lot of Doctor Who fans as well. I know several friends that enjoy that show, so I did not know that.
Yeah, our science fiction fandoms they're having the kibosh put on them, and I'm not okay with that.
I know. Speaking of science fiction fandoms, I saw something recently on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie doing well opening weekend and then tanking a little bit at the box office. And I have to wonder how much that's going to affect what they choose to do going forward, because I love Star Wars as well. And I've seen all the live action stuff at this point. And I did watch The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I thought it was pretty good. Did you see that one?
I've not seen it. I've not been to a movie in a long time. Yeah. I don't really live anywhere near a movie theater. It's like an hour drive to see a movie. But I do want to see that if it's still in theaters. I don't know how far we are out from that. After my theater stuff dies down, listeners, I'm in a play. It's exciting, but it's a lot of time, as you all know. Stefan's well aware, fellow thespian.
Thespian wannabe.
I'm looking forward to having time for, but I realized
hobbyist.
If I don't make a point to go see films frequently, I'm just not going to see them. So I'm going to try to start. My goal is one a week. Just start going.
Yeah. Summertime's a good time to go inside and watch a movie instead of play outdoors.
It rains.
It rains. It does rain. Yeah. So, and we'll get to the actual show in a minute, but this is Trek related, I promise. So I got a Nintendo Switch too, which is very exciting to me because now I can play some Star Trek games that are out on that console.
Oh.
I'm historically kind of mainly a Nintendo gamer. And so I recently bought a Nintendo Switch 2 because they announced price hikes. And I was like, well, I guess I need one now. And there's a Star Trek Voyager game that just came out recently called Across the Unknown. And it's supposed to be a strategy survival game, which sounds very stressful.
It does.
Trek Movie did a good write-up on it that kind of has me a little concerned that when I get to playing it, it's going to be impossible for me. I'm not particularly great at video games, which is why I play a lot of like fun Nintendo games that aren't really difficult. But as a Star Trek fan, I do want to play this Voyager game. Have you heard about this game at all, Steven?
I recently saw an ad for a Star Trek game. I wasn't aware if it was Voyager or what it was, but it looked a little bit thriller horror-y.
Okay. Yeah, there are actually a couple of other ones that one of them is coming out that looks like another kind of dark horror survival game that stars Ro Laren, which is interesting.
That's the one I saw.
That's what you saw?
That's what I saw.
I think that just got announced like last weekend or something. I don't know about that one. That one looks like a little beyond my interests. The Voyager one, Across the Unknown, it's supposed to do a really good job at telling the stories of Voyager, and you as the player can kind of make different decisions than were made in the show. Like the whole Tuvix thing where Janeway decides to separate the Tuvok Neelix Tuvix character. I haven't looked into this game too much, but I am probably going to play it. So that's a thing that I'm excited about in the world of Star Trek. Yeah.
Hey, Star Trek.
I'll tie this back to TNG though. Did you ever play any of the 90s era video games?
So I think the answer is no. I played the original Nintendo, had a TOS game.
Yes.
I played that.
Okay.
And I feel like there was a Game Boy TNG game that I played.
I actually have it. Game Boy had a Star Trek Generations game. And also, I think they made a 25th anniversary Star Trek game.
Okay.
I don't have that one. What I was getting at in particular was, and listeners, I cannot show this to you, but there's a game called Echoes from the Past. I'm holding the picture up so Steven can see it, on Sega Genesis, and I believe this was also on Super Nintendo. And it's the TNG crew going on various missions, and during the pandemic, me and some of my like grown-up friends, we tried to sit down and play through this entire game. Honestly, kind of awful.
Oh no.
We were all three of us were just like, we could probably get through this game in a day. This game branches into so many different side quests and so many nearly impossible, expansive puzzles that just make it not fun. So this came out in 94, I believe. So Star Trek The Next Generation, Echoes from the Past on Sega Genesis. I believe it was also on Super Nintendo. Kind of a disappointment, but we tried it. Can't win them all. A lot of like the movie and TV show tie-in video games are kind of not the best. But moving on to our show topic, let's head into the ready room.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
Today's Galaxy Class episode is a discussion, a personnel profile, if you will, on our good friend Geordi LaForge.
Hey, Geordi.
We do love Geordi, man, with the one of my favorite memes, the pointing one. People can look it up. So we're going to kind of deep dive into the life of Geordi LaForge, who I think I've stated on this podcast before is probably my favorite TNG character. He's a pretty, I think, well-balanced character. So we'll go through some general info and then some chronology and where he's been seen in Star Trek. And then we'll get into some trivia where Steven and I will talk about a couple of interesting trivia points. So I want to start off with a quote that I actually heard in a very recent episode of TNG that I watched. Inheritances, for listeners who don't remember what that episode is, it's the one that Data finds an android that is essentially his mother. Dr. Soong took his his wife, and when she had passed away, transferred her memories into an android, and that android encounters Data, and they go on a mission, and she doesn't know she's an android, and Data doesn't know that at first either, but begins to suspect. Do you remember this one, Steven?
I do.
I thought it was really good, and in watching it, I wasn't preparing for this podcast episode specifically, but in watching that recently, I really appreciated this quote from Geordi. So I'll start off with this quote, and it's just him talking to Data about life and some difficulties that pop up. Watch the episode for more context. But Geordi says, "That's life, Data. Part of being human is learning how to deal with the unexpected, to risk new experiences, even when they don't fit into your preconceptions." So in this episode, Data is trying to figure out what to do about this android, and he suspects that she's not actually his mother, yada, yada. Like I said, watch the episode. But this is just a single moment of many where I find that Geordi's friendship with Data is one of his most endearing characteristics.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll run one more quote here, and this is actually Data speaking of Geordi. Data says, "I never knew what a friend was until I met Geordi. He spoke to me as though I were human. He treated me no differently from anyone else. He accepted me for what I am. And that, I have learned, is friendship." So Geordi over here doing his part, whether really intentional or not, to help Data experience one of the most human elements of life, being friendship. And I think that's a really one of my favorite parts of the Geordi LaForge character.
Those are beautiful quotes. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. And I love that one of them was just happened to be on the episode that I was watching. Going over some general info about the character. Obviously, he was played by the great LeVar Burton. We've talked about LeVar Burton on this show quite a bit. Great actor, fantastic just presence on TV. Of course, everyone knows Reading Rainbow. Steven, do we need to sing the Reading Rainbow song?
Butterfly in the sky.
I thought you were about to say no, but nope, he went for it. You know, at one of my first STLVs, there was somebody that went up to the mic to ask him a question or whatever, and then proceeded to conduct the entire audience to sing that song to him. He's got to be a little sick of that song, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe he appreciates it. He was nice about it. So Geordi LaForge, his species is human, of course. And as far as spouses go, in the series finale, All Good Things, a Leah is mentioned. And we kind of assume that is Leah Brahms from earlier in the series who he meets, though she's not seen on screen and they don't actually say her last name. And it's also an alternate future. And then we have season 3 of Star Trek Picard, where he has married and he has 2 daughters. His wife isn't named there, so we don't know who she is exactly, but we know that he did kind of settle down and become a family man, which I think is a really nice progression to the character, who had clearly some dating struggles, right? Shall we say, in his life.
That's such a gentle way to put it.
You know, it's, if I think about the character Geordi, this is definitely one of his characteristics throughout the TNG series, right? Is just struggling in the world of dating. And that's okay. That's same in the 21st century as it is in the 24th and 25th century. But ultimately, he found love and had a couple of kids. Those 2 daughters being Sydney and Alondra LaForge, as we saw in Star Trek Picard Season 3. Alondra, of course, being played by LeVar Burton's real-life daughter, Mika Burton. I thought she was lovely in the show. Ashley Sharp-Chestnut, who played Sydney LaForge, also great. Steven, I know that you've seen season 3 of Picard, right? Wonderful what they did with all of the characters, really. And I thought it was such an appropriate thing to have Geordi expand his life with a family, but also become the curator of the Starfleet Ship Museum. I feel like that's a natural progression of one of the best engineers in Starfleet of all time to kind of run the show at the Starfleet Museum with all of these starships.
The way he was shown with his family and the struggles of him being a parent. I loved everything they did with him and his family in that season. The actresses did an amazing job, I think, in those roles. I mean, obviously for Mika, it's maybe a little bit easier. But I really appreciated what they did. That choice, I think, was an excellent choice.
You know, that reminds me, I'm going to probably tangent a little bit. In watching season 3 of Picard, Steven, did you watch The Ready Room as well?
I did not.
Okay. So they did a Ready Room episode where they had LeVar Burton and also the two actresses that played his daughters, where Will Wheaton interviewed them and talked about their process of getting to know Ashley, who played Sydney LaForge, and how she's essentially become a part of LeVar Burton's family.
Aww.
And she's like really good friends with Mika. And it's one of those things where you really, I mean, you can try to fake chemistry, but there's like, you can tell when it's like real chemistry. And it was really lovely to see these three on The Ready Room get along so well. And you could tell like they're definitely together at Thanksgiving, and they have that kind of family dynamic.
That's so wonderful.
You should definitely go back and watch that Ready Room episode, assuming they're still online.
Recently they worked. I have started rewatching Picard, and I'm doing that along with the Ready Room episodes because I didn't make the time for it the first time through, and I caught like a few of them, and the ones I caught I really enjoyed. I just didn't always make time for them, so now I'm doing a rewatch with the Ready Room episode.
Awesome. I'm jealous. I just rewatched Picard last year, and I really want to rewatch it again. It's so good. It's so good. I look forward to hearing about you seeing them all together in that interview. And LeVar Burton has said that working with his daughter in this show has been one of the most rewarding moments in his acting career. Which I mean, right? I don't have kids. I can only imagine. I can only imagine my own offspring growing up around my hectic schedule as a full-time television actor with 18-hour work days, and then growing up to be an actor and then joining me on the set. Like, I can only imagine how fulfilling that must be as a parent. It's a thing I will never know.
Same.
I don't need kids. And so my last little bullet point here is that Geordi LaForge served in Starfleet as a lieutenant junior grade helmsman aboard the USS Enterprise D in 2364. As his career progressed, he transitioned to engineering and was promoted to lieutenant and later lieutenant commander, becoming the chief engineer of the Enterprise D and later the Enterprise E, both under Captain Jean-Luc Picard. By the early 25th century, he attained the rank of Commodore and, as we discussed, held the position of curator of the Fleet Museum. Quite a career. And I have to bring up one more thing about Star Trek Picard. I don't know how closely you were paying attention to the trailers that came out prior to season 3 debuting, but there was a shot in one of the trailers before the show had dropped. I think this might have been the first we see Geordi, any footage of Geordi. He's on the screen of the Titan talking to Picard, and he's pissed. Like, he's got this look in his eye where he's furious. And I remember seeing that in the trailer and being like, oh my God, what is happening? He's clearly furious with Picard, and I don't even know if he had any lines in that moment in the trailer, but it really comes across as like almost scary because Geordi is generally a pretty friendly guy. And I gotta say, it's like LeVar Burton may not have had his eyes to act with during most of TNG, covered behind the visor, but those things pierce through the screen when he wants them to. And unfortunately, like, he only showed up in the latter half of season 3 of Picard. I would love to see more, but he did a wonderful job in that show, and I will stop drooling over thinking about rewatching it and moving on. But I do love that season.
It's gold. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it is. I'll have to rewatch it. What I'm trying to do right now, Steven, is work my way through my current rewatch of all the classic series and try to finish it by the time I go to STLV, which is like a little bit of a crunch because the playlist that I have says I have like 51 hours left to watch. I don't remember how many episodes that is. So I may not finish these all by STLV. I might finish them all by the end of the year. I don't know. Because I want to get back into rewatching some of the newer stuff too.
Yeah. Unlike you, I do not have a list. It's I haven't revisited this series in a while. Let me start this. Yeah. So Picard, I started again partially because I hadn't seen the Ready Room and I was curious. I think Will Wheaton did a great job with it, and I wanted to really give it its time and due.
Yeah.
I've also restarted Discovery.
Oh.
I realized I watched it when it first aired, I don't know that I rewatched any of it. I think I just watched it as it aired. So
all 5 seasons.
Yeah, so I don't recall. I recall rewatching individual episodes, but not a run through. So I started back at the beginning, and it's really interesting to watch it from this vantage point for the second time after all these other series, all these other things that have happened. I'm finding it to be a really, really interesting rewatch. But it's not if there's no rhyme or reason per se to what I'm doing. I'm just thinking, I would like to get lost in this area now. So then I rewatched that series.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. I want to get to that place once I finish this rewatch. I'm in the final season of TNG. I'm in the final season of DS9, final season of Voyager and Enterprise. So I'm rotating all of these shows, and sometime in the next several months, I will be done. And then I'll probably dive back into some of the newer series. I didn't rewatch any of Strange New Worlds season 3 yet, but I digress. Back to Geordi. Kind of a quick chronology of Geordi's life. So he was born in 2335 in the African Confederation on Earth. In the 2340s, he received his first visor. In 2353, he was admitted to Starfleet Academy. And in 2357, he graduated, so it took him 4 years, and then was assigned to the USS Victory. 2364, he was assigned to the USS Enterprise D as the helmsman. So 7 years on the Victory. In 2365, he was promoted to lieutenant and chief engineer. Basically 1 year as the helmsman, and they were like, let's make this guy the chief engineer. And then 1 year later, in 2366, he was promoted to lieutenant commander. In 2370, he received word that his mother, Silva LaForge of the USS Hera, died. We talked about this recently, Steven. We have some issues with that episode, but anyway, moving on. In 2371, we know the Enterprise D was destroyed over Veridian 3 in the movie Star Trek Generations. I'm going to sidebar for 1 second. I feel like people laugh a lot about this moment where the hull breach occurs and Geordi does that little like twirl like underneath the closing bay doors. I don't know. I think it's cool. I've heard a lot of people talk crap about that moment.
I love it.
He could be an action hero.
I think it gives it that action element that the film wouldn't have otherwise. I'm here for it. Pour one out for the Enterprise D. So the next year in 2372, Geordi was assigned to the USS Enterprise E. And then the next year after that, 2373, Geordi traveled back in time with the Enterprise to 2063 in order to defeat an attempt by the Borg to create an alternate timeline in which the Federation was never created. And we know that as the movie Galaxy Class.
Yes, Galaxy.
First Contact.
What a cool name, Galaxy Class.
Right? I feel like that rings a bell somewhere. I don't know. There's a recollection there. I don't know. But yeah, First Contact.
I think it's something I subscribe to. So First Contact, where Geordi also has ocular implants, which is good for him and good for the actor. In 2375, Geordi assists Picard's rebellion against Starfleet Admiral Dougherty to protect the Baku. And we know in that movie, his ocular implants kind of start to become unneeded because his eyes grow back. Even temporarily. Like, you remember this scene, Steven, where Geordi is kind of watching the sunrise and he's got just kind of a calm smile and tears welling up because for the first time he can actually see through his human eyes.
It's such a beautiful scene.
It's acted so well. It's kind of muted and calm and quiet, and it's a beautiful scene, and I love that movie. I should rewatch that. And finally, between 2376 and 2401, Geordi has at least 2 daughters, the ones we know of, Sydney LaForge and Alondra LaForge. And like we mentioned earlier, he's promoted to Commodore and assigned curator of the Fleet Museum. So that is where we see Geordi, and will we see him on screen again? I don't know. I'm going to say, who knows?
Je sais pas.
I don't know what you just said, but okay. Where do we think he goes from there?
That's a great question, because I think about all the work he did to restore the Enterprise D with the Syracuse hull.
Yeah.
And where does one go from there? He's clearly, well, my perception on what we saw was that he doesn't want to be in sort of active duty, high stakes situations anymore.
Yeah. He's a family man.
I think it's possible he retires from that role.
Yeah. I have a hard time thinking of Geordi doing nothing. Maybe his hobbies are building starship models. I don't know. I don't write the show. This should not be left up to me. So that's kind of the rundown of Geordi's life. And we're going to next talk about a little bit of trivia. All right, so I've got 8 or so points of trivia that I uncovered about Geordi that I thought, Steven, we should talk about these because some of them are pretty interesting.
Make it so.
Engage. So the first bit is the creation of the character began when Gene Roddenberry proposed having a disabled crew member aboard the Enterprise. Writer David Gerrold subsequently wrote a memo which listed various disabilities, from which Roddenberry selected blindness. Gerrold ultimately disapproved of how little of LaForge's face was usually visible due to wearing his visor. So David Gerrold didn't really like how much his eyes were covered. We know the actor was not super fond of that either. So Gene Roddenberry was provided a list of disabilities, and he chose blindness. I wonder what this show would have been like, let's say, if Geordi was in a wheelchair or the 24th century equivalent. I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I will say first, this kind of made me think of that Deep Space Nine episode where there's, I believe she's an engineer named Melora, and I believe that's also the name of the episode. She comes on board and works with Bashir, and she has to be in a wheelchair because I think her species can't handle regular gravity, something along those lines. So
like that.
Yeah, so she's on the station with her wheelchair, and then I believe Dr. Bashir rigs a room so that she can be in her natural environment with low to zero gravity. So I'm kind of thinking if Geordi ended up being a paraplegic or some other form of disability, it would be interesting to see how those characteristics were played in the show and possibly displayed as maybe in some ways a strength. What do you think, Steven?
I want to start by taking a step back and saying that I appreciate that Gene Roddenberry in the 80s thought, hey, we've dealt with certain issues in TOS. In this series, I want to deal with ability. And that's something that even, in the mainstream discussion wasn't really, I think about the Americans with Disabilities Act, my work in higher education and working with students from different ability levels. And I feel like it's only in certain spheres, education, healthcare, that's really thought about with any level of intentionality, especially back at that in that period. So the fact that Gene Roddenberry, who's this at this point older white dude, is like, right, hey, this is important to me. I want to show this as a difference. So I think it's really cool that they did that. I can totally see from an acting point of view why that was challenging for LeVar Burton. Your eyes are a part of what you're doing, what you're emoting, so much can be done with the eyes without speech, right? You can, right. But I appreciate that the context of a television show, having them be say they couldn't speak, they weren't able to speak. That's challenging in a television series. Mm-hmm. Being deaf might be, something that's not, I'm sort of spitballing here, but the visual impairment piece, I think, gave them opportunity to address a disability in a way that is visible. It is a component of everything that's happening. Think about people who are actually blind. How much are they using their eyes to emote? I think it made it real. I think it made it real in a way that it wouldn't have been otherwise if we could have seen his eyes, because he would have emoted as a seeing person. I think it's a cool choice. I never thought too much about it until, frankly, this question right now. Other than just, I appreciated that they showed disability in the show. But I think it actually would have taken away from the performance had we been able to interact with his eyes throughout the series. I think adding it later on in First Contact makes sense. I think that's showing progress in medical technology, etc. But I think it actually would have been a detriment to his portrayal of a person with a disability in Next Generation.
And also, we wouldn't have that great moment we were just discussing in Insurrection where he appreciates the sunrise.
Right.
Like, I don't want to say making him blind for 7 years was all worth it because of that moment, but that moment where Geordi is appreciating a sunrise with his own eyes really drives home hard the theme of that film. Mm-hmm. Remember earlier in that film, the residents, the Baku, are talking to Picard about how they feel that technology that can get them out into space really just takes them away from their home. Mm-hmm. Or if you like use a machine, it takes something away from the man.
Yeah.
And so that moment with Geordi appreciating his maybe technically inferior human eyes, he's appreciating that they provide him some kind of visual or appreciation for the sunrise or sunset. Was it sunrise? Yeah, sunrise, I think. That he wouldn't otherwise appreciate as much with his visor.
And I think that too, that just as we think about the different identities that Star Trek has portrayed over the years, just having someone with a disability as a senior officer, as someone who is
right.
Again, I think that's an important. I love what they did with that scene in Insurrection. I think that even without that, and you didn't say this, so I want to be clear, but I think there's value to him being a blind person on this show for all the, all the things that happened through that time, because it's letting someone else. It's funny. I want to say see or visualize, but that's not. Someone else be represented, a different type of identity be represented in a show that maybe hadn't been before. Because I think the argument before was, and I think this might have been in the 80s around the time the Next Generation came out. I remember there was a Star Trek fan magazine. It was the first, other than my Boys Life magazine from Boy Scouts, it was the first magazine subscription I ever had was this Star Trek magazine. And I feel like I read an article about this, and it was maybe an op-ed kind of thing where a fan was like, well, wait a minute, in the 24th century this should be healed, this should be da-da-da-da-da. And they explain it a little bit, I think, in the series, but the bigger context of Gene Roddenberry, infinite diversity and infinite combinations, wanting to show different experiences, I think that was so important, and maybe even could have had more done with that, perhaps. I know I'm appreciative that Geordi's blindness was just a part of him for so long, or I mean, really throughout. But the lack of ability to emote with his eyes, the shenanigans that ensued, that's a terrible word choice, the complications that ensued with his visor when there were concerns, issues, what have you, I appreciate it. I'm glad it's there.
And it also became a strength, going back to that episode Interface that we had talked about before. Like, he's the only one that could really hook up to this probe that they used to plug into his visor links and remote control this probe. Again, we have some issues with that episode, but that in that moment and in other moments, that disability becomes an avenue for a strength. So and to your point, it's like he's a character with a disability who is well represented, and he's also not just some character. Like, he's a boss. Like, he is the chief engineer. So there's nothing holding him back. On to my next point. This character, Geordi, was named for the late quadriplegic Star Trek fan Geordi LaForge, who passed away in 1975 from muscular dystrophy. And then there's a little note that in the documentary Trekkies, Jonathan Frakes states that the fan's name was Jordan. So I tried to look it up, and it does appear that the records show that this fan's name was Geordi LaForge. And I love that they decided to essentially name this character after, or name Geordi after this fan, and use that to represent disability in this with this character. So,
I didn't know that. I didn't know
like
that. That's
not
awesome.
at all.
I wasn't aware of that.
I kind of forgot that they talked about this, or at least Jonathan Frakes brought it up in Trekkies. I haven't seen that film in a while. Have you seen Trekkies, Stephen?
I don't believe that I have.
Oh, it's
or if
delicious.
I have, it was so long ago that I just don't recall it.
It's totally worth watching. I think you and I both, we love this fandom so much. And it's such a really great slice of this fandom when Trek was massive in the 90s, and it's so fun. They go behind the scenes of like fans' lives and what fandom means to them and conventions, and like it's so great. You gotta watch it.
Okay. Quick random connection to his name.
Okay.
I 8 years ago or so learned of someone today in our time named Geordi, or who goes by Geordi. The current Earl of Carnarvon in England, Highclere Castle, which is where they filmed Downton Abbey. Bear with me. I went there for a tour. Didn't realize I booked a special tour, so I met the Countess of Carnarvon. The Countess. And she kept talking lovingly about her husband, Geordi. So I don't know what his full name actually is, but like the family calls him Geordi. I don't know that it's spelled the same way. I don't know that I've ever seen it written. But if you watch any clips or recordings on Facebook, on Instagram by the Countess of Carnarvon about the castle, if she mentions her husband, he's Geordi. And it's just the only other connection. I've never heard that name anywhere other than Star Trek and Highclere Castle.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know that I've heard that name elsewhere either. But okay. So, chief engineering boss and royalty. Moving on to our next point, we've got the original writers and directors guide for TNG listed Geordi not as a helmsman or even a bridge officer, but simply an away mission regular with a specialty of the Enterprise's Starship School for Children. The guide also stated that there was a plan where Geordi would receive the equivalent of human eyes. So we know that kind of eventually happened in the movie Insurrection. But yeah, so initially the writer's guide had suggested he was just an away mission regular with a specialty in the Starship School for Children. So I don't know, I guess he was a teacher.
That's so ambiguous.
I know. I want somebody to create an animated series with all these alternative versions of this character, or a comic book would be cool. I don't feel like Geordi would be a bad teacher. You know, it's like in some ways Data is learning to be human and in a way a child in some of his understanding of the complexities of humanity. And we know that Geordi has always really compassionately met Data where he is. And so I think Geordi would be a great teacher. I don't know if there's enough of a space for that in the TNG show. I mean, we got to see the school a couple times in the show, but
right. And then what would Keiko be doing? I mean,
right. What would Keiko be doing? What would that little animated fish be doing that Alexander was playing with in that one episode? So I don't know, a bit of trivia. Geordi the teacher, Other actors considered for the role of Geordi LaForge were Reggie Jackson, Tim Russ, Wesley Snipes, Victor Love, Chip McAllister, Clarence Gilliard, and Kevin Peter Hall. And the favorite among these was Reggie Jackson.
Wow.
Now, do I know who half these people are? Not really. Did I have to look some of them up? Yes, I did. We're not going to talk about all of them, but I was aware that Tim Russ had auditioned for this. I think there may even be footage out there. I feel like I saw it as a bonus on one of the DVDs. But Tim Russ playing the Geordi character, that would have been a different vibe. I feel like Tim Russ is so well suited to Tuvok.
Oh, he's incredible as Tuvok.
It's hard for me to imagine him in the Geordi role. And I do believe at STLV, one of the questions recently to the whole cast when they were on stage was, which of you are the most like your character on screen? And I think everyone agreed that Tim Russ is the most like his character Tuvok than the rest of the cast. Yeah, it's like he just has he's just very unique in the way that he speaks and the way that he carries himself. And I think he's so well suited to play Tuvok. I would be interested to see what he did with Geordi, but I'm glad we got LeVar Burton in that role.
I agree. Yeah.
Do you know any of these other names? I mean, I know who Wesley Snipes is.
So listeners, you can't see this, but when Stefan read Wesley Snipes, my face just emoted incredibly like, what? I can't see it. Yeah. And maybe it's because LeVar Burton has created this character that's so well known and endeared to me, but I cannot picture Wesley Snipes as Geordi LaForge.
I can't either, but that may only be because I don't really know much of Wesley Snipes beyond Blade, which I haven't even seen all the Blade movies. I just saw him return to the character in Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't really know him as an actor, so could he have been a good Geordi? Maybe.
Well, I think about his role in Tu Wong Fu, and that shows the depth and breadth of his ability to act. He's a talented actor, so maybe he would have done something with the role that, because again, when you mention his name, Blade came to mind.
Okay,
so
I'm not the only one,
but he played an amazing role in Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. So who knows? Maybe it could have been another fun take, but not one that I LeVar Burton is Geordi.
He's Geordi. If they decide to reboot TNG, I don't know. I don't know about that. Moving on. LeVar Burton made a statement on Geordi that I have here. He said, "I like Geordi for a lot of reasons. First of all, his energetic attitude is much more loose than that of a lot of other characters. He has a sort of cynical sense of humor, and I like that about him. I liked the opportunity to play a character who is handicapped, yet that handicap has been turned into a plus for him, and there are all the emotional issues that go along with that." So there's a kind of like a broad swath of things that LeVar Burton is saying about Geordi, which he said he has a cynical sense of humor. I don't associate cynicism with Geordi, so I wonder what he's referring to there.
Yeah.
If somebody's down, he's like the one that's gonna bring him up. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see this. The cynicism doesn't come to mind.
Yeah, maybe I'm missing something or forgetting about it in a scene or an episode, or I don't know. But here's another fact about Geordi. Geordi has held more ranks on screen than any other Star Trek character. We've seen him as an ensign, lieutenant junior grade, full lieutenant, lieutenant commander, commander in an illusory future, and a captain in an alternate timeline in Voyager, and a commodore in season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Wait, when did we see him as an ensign?
Is he an ensign at the beginning of the show?
I thought he was a lieutenant junior grade at the beginning of the show. I could be mistaken.
I wonder. Oh, is there a flashback?
Maybe.
I didn't Google this.
I don't recall the ensign piece, but you're right. There could be. I mean, there's any number of ways in Star Trek that could have materialized.
Yeah, because we've had plenty of flashbacks, right? We even saw Picard as an ensign,
right?
Yeah. Well, in any case, he's climbed the ranks quite successfully. Not just a career man, but also a family man.
Wouldn't that be Harry Kim?
So when I look it up, well,
I'm absolutely joking here because he's an ensign forever.
Thanks. Garrett Wong just unsubscribed to our podcast. Thanks a lot, Steven.
But he became isn't he canonically an admiral? Harry Kim. In Starfleet Academy, the Wall of Heroes, he is canonically an admiral. So he rose. But you're right. On screen, we only saw. Yeah.
There's hope for everybody. I think what happened with Geordi's ensign position is in 2357, he was assigned as an ensign aboard the USS Victory after he got out of Starfleet Academy. So there must be a reference to his time on the Victory as an ensign.
Okay.
Did we see that on screen? I don't think so. In any case, well done, Commander LaForge or Commodore, whatever, president of Starfleet Academy. Is that where he ends up? I don't know. But let's jump to Voyager. The Voyager episode Death Wish originally featured Geordi instead of Riker, but Riker was chosen because LeVar had recently shaved his head and didn't look much like audiences remembered the character. So do you remember this Voyager episode, Steven, where there's a Q that wants to commit suicide because he doesn't want to live forever? And there are different moments where Janeway is talking to the Q about positive things he's done throughout history and people he's met throughout history. And one of those people they bring through to Voyager is Commander Riker. I guess they had thought of Geordi LaForge first, but I don't know what role it was. I guess LeVar Burton had shaved his head. So
interesting.
That's fun. I mean, it was a small part. Riker was on there very briefly.
Right.
And the last The last kind of trivia fact, Mike McMahon, showrunner and writer of Lower Decks, which we love, cites Geordi as a partial inspiration for Rutherford and Lower Decks, which also a very positive character that is so enthusiastic and loves what he does. And I feel like he would very easily befriend Data or any android. I see the through line there.
I love that. I didn't know that, and I love that. I think that's so awesome, and I can totally see that.
Yeah. That's what Lower Decks did so well. Like, it brought these sort of spiritual successors to a lot of the characters that we love, or at least brought some traits forward into the show. So, yeah, lots of influence Geordi LaForge had in the future. So, final thoughts on Geordi LaForge. Steven, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Yeah. So I think him being your person, I would love to have you end this component, or I'd love to hear your thoughts at the end. So Geordi, I think, is an incredible character. LeVar Burton is just an amazing human, and I have so much respect for him as a person, as an actor, as an educator, just as an activist. He's just incredible, and I appreciate what he brings to this role. I think the arc we see for Geordi over the different series he's in, the movies, is just really incredible. And for me, he's a character that I really appreciate is there. He's not one of my favorites in that if someone were to ask me the question, he's not someone who pops straight to mind. And if he wasn't there, there would be a hole. There would be a hole in the cast, a hole in the series. Our episode today has really helped me to embrace him, I think, in a different way. And yeah, I just appreciate Geordi for who he is and how integral he is to Data's human journey because of his humanity. So
I love that. And that kind of dovetails with what I appreciate the most about the character and what I feel like the character's emotional legacy in the franchise is. And that is his ability to befriend these characters that otherwise might be dismissed. Like the TNG episode, The Enemy. Do you remember this one? He's stranded on a planet and there's this Romulan down there, and they're kind of at each other's throats at first, and they could easily like kill each other. Right. But they kind of become friends because Geordi is very patient with them and kind of takes it slow and explains to them how they could cooperate to dig themselves out of a hole and to get rescued. So he has this ability to connect with these characters that some others might just fight with. Also Hugh, right, from the Borg, right? The Borg drone that, like Hugh connects with Geordi as a friend. Because Geordi is just doing what he does well, and that is kind of meeting these characters where they are and where others might dismiss them. And the most obvious and prevalent example in the series is his friendship with Data. So that's kind of what I appreciate the character for the most.
I do think we would be remiss not to mention his problematic holographic relationship with Leah Brahms.
Fair enough.
We talked about Worf's parenthood. His fatherhood. Right. I feel like we should just briefly address Geordi's crush. These
characters are not perfect, right? There are issues,
right? So I mean, maybe a good cautionary tale about proper usage of the holodeck.
Good writing and bad writing can live in the same space sometimes.
Exactly.
Now we move on to the segment of the show that we like to call Collector's Card Roulette. So in this segment, one of us opens a pack of cards from the TNG era, and we talk about some random card that we pull out and how it's connected to TNG, or if it's about TNG, we talk about the card. I believe Steven has the pack ready for us right now.
I do.
Let's see what we have.
Oh, I could not have planned that better.
Uh-oh.
The card is called Back from the Past and shows Captain Montgomery Scott and Geordi LaForge in main engineering.
Relics.
So the back says, artist Sonia R. Helios, inspiration Relics. Relics was a touching episode for me. I liked the idea of both engineers being together, and my thought was to depict a common bond between them. End quote. A poignant reunion with the old Starship Enterprise and a leap into the future on the new one mark the 4th episode in which a character from the original Star Trek show appears on Star Trek The Next Generation. In Relics, Captain Montgomery Scott is found suspended in a transporter chamber aboard a crashed ship where he has not aged a day in several decades. Scotty begins to feel useless until his skill and inventiveness is called upon once again to save the USS Enterprise from destruction. The serendipity of this, I love it. I love it.
I know.
What a great card.
That just means we're doing the right episode. I do love, though, that in this episode, there are moments where I think Geordi is a little mean to Scotty, and I'm like, okay, dude, maybe back off a little bit. I love we just talked for an hour about, oh, Geordi's great, except like dating issues or whatever. It's like this is also an episode where I'm like, Geordi could be a little nicer.
Maybe this is where that humor comment comes into play about him being a little bit
like cynical.
Yeah. Like sort of this I know what I'm doing, you don't, back off.
He essentially tells Scotty to stay out of the way, and he's kind of out of his element.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. I love that it's Geordi that's like telling Scotty to get off his lawn. But they work it out in the end.
Yeah.
And then they just give Scotty a shuttle. Is that jarring to anybody else? Like, you guys
As
just have,
one does.
I mean, do they just like replicate parts and they're like, well, we can just make a shuttle and bye, you can have it. It's free.
It's not that long after that the Delta Flyers created. So maybe there is capacity to create a new ship and send it on its way, or I don't know. It's Scotty. Yeah. He's a legend. Let him have it.
Yeah. Let a legend have a shuttle.
Yeah.
Please.
Incoming transmission.
What's happening on BQN, you ask? We're not just a network. We're a universe of exploration, entertainment, and deep dives into the topics you love. Here's your star map to the sonic adventures awaiting you. Let's chart the Star Trek cosmos with all good things. Embark on a comprehensive journey through the entire Star Trek universe with the insightful crew of Amy, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristen. From classic to current, they cover it all. Galaxy class, engage! Steven and Stefan pilots this Alpha Quadrant mission, meticulously covering all aspects of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Infinite diversity. Stay current with the newest Star Trek frontiers alongside Chrissy and Thad. Union Federation. Whether your allegiance lies with Starfleet or the Planetary Union, Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley offer a unified front, discussing both current Star Trek and the truly Trek at heart, the Orville. Crack open that book with Peter and the Trek Book Club podcast. Delve into a rich tapestry of Star Trek's beta canon. What's the tea, Bev? Christos spills the latest Trek news and fandom insights with an essential LGBTQIA+ perspective, complete with engaging guest interviews. Our visual voyages that you can find on YouTube as well as podcasts are Trek Masters. Think you're a Starfleet Academy graduate? Test your knowledge with Davey and MC's challenging Star Trek quiz show. And the View Screen. Tune in live on Sundays for your dose of a Trek-inspired talk show. Kelvin and Amy host new 8-week seasons each spring and fall. But beyond the final frontier, we have Bargain Bin Gamer. Davey and Mitch, your self-proclaimed gamer guides, lead you to digital treasures, unearthing and reviewing the most affordable video game gems. Cinema Z. Grab your metaphorical popcorn for Mark and Matt's cinematic deep dives, unearthing overlooked films that demand your attention. History with the Szilagys. In order to never repeat it, tune in as Chrissy and Jason deliver bite-sized snippets of historical events from around the globe and transformational journeys. Host Lex Rosa explores what it means to embrace authenticity in the face of societal expectations. You can unlock deeper levels of engagement with our exclusive patron perks. The Hive Mind is where you can join our random script readings, live reaction shows, and roundtable discussions. You can also now watch All Good Things as an extended video edit and get a background look into the creation of a podcast. Also, check out our back catalog of It's Green and Amy's Math Moments. Stay connected to our ever-expanding galaxy of content by following BQN Podcast on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Discord. We appreciate you choosing BQN to fill your auditory needs. Thank you for listening. Assimilate the audio.
We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join us on our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, BQN Podcasts on Blue Sky, or our Discord server to continue our discussion there. Links can be found in the show notes.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Here on BQN Podcasts, you will never hear commercials on any of our shows. If you'd like to help us keep our shows coming to you each week ad-free, consider becoming a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Let's Fly reaction show, script readings, and other perks. Visit patreon.com/BQN for all the details.
If becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leaving us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show.
At this time, we would like to thank our very own associate producer, Jim McMahon, and a special thanks to Mark White for our show artwork. We are so grateful for your support. And to all of our listeners, we send out a heartfelt thank you.
Thank you for beaming aboard the Galaxy class, and until next time, make now always the most precious time.
And if we're going to be damned, let's be damned for what we really are.
Engage.
Hailing frequencies closed.